evening, good evening. As the song said, ain't no stopping us now, ladies and gentlemen. Illinois family and friends, I bring you greetings. I bring you greetings this evening. The song said it right, ain't no stopping us now. But friends and families, before we get started, I would like to offer a prayer. So our fearless leader, Captain Ron Evans, we want to offer prayer from right now. So if you would just bear with me for a few minutes and pray for our leader. Captain Ron Evans is a person who is our inspired leader who would not have, none of this would be before us this evening if it wasn't for him and his team. So now we're going to just offer prayer. So bow your heads with me, please. Gracious God, we pause briefly to pray for our dear brother Ron. We pray that you dispatch your loving angels by his side and his wife Sherry. Touch his body and touch all those that will render care to him on this evening. We miss him, Father, but you miss him more, so be by his side. It is with an attitude of gratitude that we offer this prayer, and God's people said amen. Amen. Again, getting back there, ain't no stopping us now. So ladies and gentlemen, I am Commander Carl Barnes, United States Navy retired. And indeed, I am so honored and privileged to be introducing this evening's special fireside chat guest. Amen. Venus Goodwine has most recently been selected to lead the United States Air Force's enterprise IT function and is serving in her new role as the Director of Enterprise Technology. This is something that's just taken place, ladies and gentlemen. Prior to her current position, Ms. Goodwine served as U.S. Department of Agriculture's Chief Information Security Officer, overseeing a 208 million cybersecurity budget. She has the principal advisor to the CIO, providing technical and managerial competence and experience to manage the overall information security program to protect assets and the infrastructure. But before that, she had a very long tenure with the military, serving as a senior cybersecurity officer, advising the Air Force CISO, and as a senior program manager in the Marine Corps Systems Command, and serving the United States Marine Corps as a customer support branch manager and IT project manager. And I had to put a plug in, and that's when our paths crossed is with the Marine Corps. So it was an honor to meet her while I was stationed in Okinawa at 1st Marine Air Wing. Ms. Goodwine holds an MBA from William Carey University, a Master of Technology and Chief Information Officer from the University of Maryland, and a BS in Information Science and Support Services, also from the University of Maryland. Ms. Goodwine holds a plethora of awards and decorations for her leadership, her innovation, her technical expertise, and creative problem-solving skills. Her many achievements demonstrate the value of the extensive leadership training Ms. Goodwine received through her 35 years of service in the U.S. Air Force, both as an active duty member officer and as a reservist. And I like to say she's equivalent to our Seaman Admiral, going from an E1 in the Air Force all the way to the 2-star position she holds today. So that is a testimony in itself. This position continues through her dedication to the workforce today. So ladies and gentlemen, here to share the story, her story, and offer some thoughts on her many experiences, Miss Venus Goodwine.
Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you to my friend, Dr. Carl Barnes. I really appreciate that. Hearing you say those words, it still makes me smile and also makes me thankful for all of those who have helped me get to where I am today. And so today I'm going to share that with you. And I love this setup, fireside chat, because it makes me comfortable and it makes me know that I can be transparent with you. And so today I'm going to offer some tidbits to you. But before I do that, I really must say thank you to the National Naval Association Transition Assistance Team for the invitation and for recognizing that I may have some stories to share, some lessons to learn, but more importantly, organizations like this are crucial and critical for a support system that you will need as you make that transition. So again, thank you for the invitation and thank you for the trust that you placed in me that what I will share will definitely be beneficial. And so, you know, today when you hear my story, I want to put a little context around all of that. 35 years I've been associated with Department of Defense in a lot of roles. So I am what you would consider dual persona, meaning that I have been in Department of Defense holding not only a military role, but also a civilian role. And so I began my career like some of you. I was enlisted first. I was active duty enlisted. I was reserve enlisted. I was commissioned as an officer, started out as a junior civil servant, and have progressed along the ranks. So ask yourself, and I often ask me, in 1986, how do you go from a airman basic, what we call in the Air Force an E1, to a 2-star equivalent in the same service? I will tell you there are a lot of lessons that I've learned. So today I want to share those with you. And I decided to say that I'm going to share with you 7 tips. And why did I choose the number 7? Because 7 is that number of completeness and perfection, both in the physical and the spiritual world. So if I would give you 7 tips today, that you would remember that these can help you as you begin and start your journey. So I'm going to start simple and I'm going to start plain. What is it that you want to do next? You must first answer that question. It may be what you've done in your military service, but I will tell you, it may not. I've been fortunate that I've had complementary careers, both in my military and civilian, has always been in the IT world, but it's changed. But so I ask you, how do you know how to do that? So here's tip number 1. I say to you, do a self-assessment. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And there are tools that can help you do that. You may have had this done while you were on active duty. You've a Myers-Briggs type indicator that can give you an idea of how you energize, how do you think, how do you make decisions, how do you, what's your role on a team? So consider our MBTI. I will tell you, I'm an ESFJ. And with that, instantly people know that I'm an extrovert. I'm sensing, I'm feeling, and I make decisions by judgment. And so just with those letters alone, it will help you decide a little bit more about yourself. So now I ask you to couple that. There's a book called What Color is My Parachute? And that book takes on these type indicators, ESFJ, and gives you an idea of, with that type of personality, this is the type role or career you should pursue. So if you are unsure, I offer that first tip to you. Consider a type indicator. But there are other type indicators, the 4 lens, focus, different types. But if you have not had that, please do a Google search, because that will help you. Now, if you're someone that what you've done in your military career is also what you want to continue, then that's great. Then I'm excited to tell you about the next tip. You must know your worth. We often take for granted in the military that we have commissary, exchange, that we have housing, tuition assistance for education. All of that is a compensation package. And so my second tip is that know your worth. Reach out to DFAS and get a copy of your compensation document. It will tell you exactly your exact value. It gives a monetary value to your exchange benefit, your medical, your dental, on top of your salary. And that's going to be important, because as you go out and start to negotiate, and yes, you negotiate your salary, as you start to do that, you want to understand that it's a compensation package. So don't be excited if a company offers you $50,000 and you, without asking further questions. You need to ask, well, what is your training plan? How many training classes will you pay for in a year? Or how many, what other benefits are included? Do I get to travel? Is travel required? Do I have to ride in coach if I travel? There are a lot of things, and I want you to focus on a compensation package, but you must first Know your worth, meaning it is not just the dollar figure that you're offered, it's also the entitled benefits package, medical, dental, vision. Do you have legal services? All those things that we're used to in the military, see if that's also part of your compensation package. Because if it's not, and you have to pay for those things, you need to consider that cost when you negotiate your salary. You say, well, how do I know what my salary should be? Market research based on your skills. Google has set it up today that if you search from your MOS or your AFSC, if you search for that in Google, it will give you the similar jobs to that military designation to help you narrow your search. That was something that Google partnered with the Department of Defense, and that will assist you in that way. Indeed, monsterjob.com, or even USA Jobs. All of those sites will have positions with salaries. It may not be the job you want, but it can give you an idea of what the job pays based on the work that you'll be required to do. So again, 2 tips. First of all, what do you want to do? Know your worth. So Dr. Barnes, are there any questions so far for me?
Ms. Goodwine, I'm monitoring the box now. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A. At this moment, I don't see any questions posed right now, ma'am. But I am looking at it, so please use the Q&A, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, go to the Q&A box and we will answer those for you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I say to you that are here participating, you're here participating because you want to learn and you want information. So please ask me what you want to know. There's no silly question. You know, we always learned in school, there's no dumb question. But I tell you, the question that you're thinking about asking, someone else has that question as well. So don't be afraid to type in the chat and ask me questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. So I'm going to go on to tip number 3 for you. Invest in yourself. What does that mean? That means we all know in most organizations, when money gets tight, budgets are cut, and you know, in Department of Defense, we have fiscally constrained environments. The first cut is always training budget. They always go to, we can only do what's mandatory and necessary. So I say to you, and this is my tip, invest in yourself. Do not solely put it on your company to provide you the skills that you know you need for that job that you want to seek. Let me tell you my experience. When I joined the Marine Corps as a civilian in 2006, where I met Dr. Barnes in Okinawa, Japan, I had traveled there with my husband, who was active duty at that time. So I gave up what I consider a very lucrative career with Lockheed Martin. And when I got there and I found work, I had to make a decision. Hey, honey, how long are we going to live here? Should I find a job, or are we going to just be here, do our 2 years and go back to the States? Well, I will tell you, we end up living in Okinawa for 10 years. So luckily, I had decided that, well, I should get a civilian career. And I did that. And once I decided that I was going to make it a career, I immediately set my eyes on, I'd like to be in the senior executive service. So what does that mean? When the time came for me to prepare and compete, I paid for someone to prepare what we call your executive core qualifications, your ECQs. Cost me well over $3,000. I'll be transparent there. But you know why I didn't mind? Because I knew, one, that the job that I was going to get, that would be an investment and I would get that back multiple fold. And it is true. So I say to you, invest in yourself. But not only, and that is true, if maybe you have a resume and you're not sure if it's good, don't be afraid to spend money to hire someone to even write your resume. Because now the resume formats have changed and most of these companies are very familiar with the requirement. How you prepare for and apply for a job on USA Jobs, it's different than what you do in corporate America. The resume formats are not the same. as you may not have experienced that yet, but USA Jobs requires more detail as opposed to, the civilian, their resumes are a little shorter and they don't require as much detail. So make sure that you're in the know when that time comes, but also invest in yourself in continued education. It is going to be very important that maybe you've gone to technical school and you got a skill and you've had some upgrade training, but now that you leave the military and go to civilian, some of the laws and regulations and policies are different. So make sure that you get that extra training to make sure that you're abreast on the technology that you're going to work with. And so, Dr. Barnes, I'll start there. I see some activity in the chat and the questions, so I'll turn it over to you.
Great. So I have a question for Mr. Mills here. He wants to know, did you have a security clearance? And if so, how did that transfer over to the civilian side?
Yes, actually, I did have a security clearance. And in most organizations, if you have a security clearance and you want to work with the organization, they can sponsor your clearance. And I will tell you, there is a cost to a security clearance, but it saves them money because if you have an active clearance, what we consider to be in scope, meaning 5 years for if you happen to have higher clearances, or 10 years for other clearance levels. So definitely talk to your security manager before you leave, and ask them about when was your last background investigation, so you'll know where you stand with that. Absolutely, that is very important because you're saving money to that company if they don't have to do that background investigation.
Great.
Thank you for that question.
Wonderful. Another question's coming in. This one comes in from another panelist member. They want to, can you please speak to the changes in the work life and location flexibility in a post-COVID world? Also, what skills are most important to develop to increase our marketability?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. So let's try and take that into parts. So first of all, yes, what COVID has shown to many organizations that working from home, that the workforce can still be just as productive as going into a brick and mortar of the organization. We've proven that. So since March of last year, we've been home and everyone taunts how great it's been. So what you'll see now, really the private industry is moving faster than I will say the federal government, which includes both civilian agencies as well as Department of Defense. A lot more so of the civilian and private industry are staying virtual and remote. So if that's important to you, make sure that you ask that question as well. But I want you to consider some things too in the remote and virtual environment. Is normally in the workplace, you're a part of the culture when you're in the workplace. You get to, you can meet in person with your team. Now, great, there are collaboration tools. We're using one now. Zoom allows for us to collaborate one with another and have breakout sessions and still write on whiteboards. But if a flexibility of you to be able to work from home is important, make sure that's part of the conversation when you're interviewing. But also know that because of COVID and because of what we've proven, a lot of companies are allowing you to live wherever. They're not requiring you. You can live in Alaska and work for a company in DC, and that's perfectly okay. So definitely you will see on the flexibility, more flexibility on the civilian side. I will tell you that the federal government is a little slow in moving there. And so again, that's just a question you want to make sure you ask as we try to get to some sense of normalcy and return to the workplace. The second part of that question was about markability and skills. I will tell you, you have to know, again, once you do step number one, as I mentioned in tip number one, you know the work that you want to do, then do your research and understand what's required. Because some of that work will require that you have a specialized certificate, a certain college degree, could be a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, or a certification. as well. I know a lot in the IT world, we require certifications and we require security clearances. And so your marketability will be based on the requirements of the job that you seek. And here is why I say do market research. Because if you start to search for instance, and I don't know the broad swath of the career fields here on the call, but I will tell you from an IT perspective, because that's my specialty. If you want to be a help desk technician, then I would search for help desk technician jobs and start to read what are the requirements that these companies are asking for. How many years of experience? Do I have that? Is that something I can document on my resume? And once you do that, that's the research to understand if you have the years of experience, or do you have the certification if they're asking for one? Do they have the security clearance if you're asking for one? And so, and if you have that, then yes, you are definitely marketable. But I want to tell you something too about being military that I don't want you to make light of. One thing about the military that they have invested in us, rather you did 4 years, if you only did 4 years, the military has invested in you some discipline. They've invested in some formalized training. And there are a lot of skills and traits that we have as being military members that the civilians do not have. And I can tell you that because I've worked on the federal civilian side with some civilians who have no military experience. And that leadership part sometimes is a struggle for them. But oftentimes, even in a 4-year career, you've had some leadership opportunities. So that gives you a step above the rest. So don't take that lightly. Don't take it for granted. Make sure that that is documented in your experience. Every opportunity that you've led. If you led putting on, the Navy ball, document that, because that's project management. So I want you to take those experiences that you've had, all of those voluntold opportunities that you probably didn't want to do, but they turned out great. I want you to document those as your experience, because that's truly your experience. So does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
They came back through that. They just finished it. Yes, ma'am. Please, if you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please post them in the Q&A. If you have a problem, get to that, just let me know, please. But post your questions in the Q&A. Thank you, Ms. Goodwine.
Okay. So I've given you 3 tips so far. What do you want to do next? Know your worth, invest in yourself. So let's talk about tip number 4. Raise your hand virtually if you have had an interview recently, in the past 6 months, in the past 12 months. Have you ever had to interview? Oftentimes in the military, we do not. So when we make that transition, it could be intimidating having to interview. But what I want to say to you is you have to be able to tell your story. And you have to have what we call that elevator pitch. What's your name, your years of experience in what way? I would always say, if someone says, tell me about you, I'll say, well, my name is Venus Goodwine. I have 35 years of military experience, 28 years of information technology. I've worked the entire gamut of IT, from software to hardware to project management. I've led large organizations, small organizations. I've managed budgets more than $200 million. Elevator speech, right then, 2 minutes, just enough to tell someone a little bit about me, to intrigue them to ask more questions. I want you to develop your elevator speech. You have to prepare that. If you Google that, there are documents that will help you with that. But for the interview, also, there are typical questions that we ask on interview. You will be amazed at how many times I have interviewed and I would just ask a simple question, tell me about yourself. And the applicant would say to me, what do you want to know? And I would just sink in my chair and think, this person was not prepared. So I don't want that to happen to you. So I want you to get a book that I'm going to recommend. And all of the references that I'm talking about today, I will provide, and NNOA will add them to their website for you. But the book is called 101 Great Interview Questions. And in that book, it tells you how to answer questions like, Tell me about yourself. And what you want to do in those cases is tell them about you that relates to the job. They don't want to know that I was born in, Florida. I like long walks on the beach, and I'm not being funny, but I'm telling you, you will be amazed with some of the responses that I have heard. So I want you to be more prepared. Get the book. And so when they ask you these questions, you be prepared. And more importantly as well, prepare for your interview in the mirror. Talk to yourself, watch your facial expressions. You can practice with your friends or your family members. But I want you to prepare for the interview. Don't think, oh, I've been doing this job so long, I know what to do. That is not true. When you have a panel of 6, because most interviews today are panels, a panel of 6, and they're asking you what we call behavior-based questions, you may climb up because you are not prepared. If someone asks you the question, a scenario, and they expect you to tell you what you would do in that situation. So a lot of the interviews are not just technical. And so I want to give you this key point. When you submit your resume, there has already been a human resource individual that have read through read through your resume and have already made a decision. That's why you have the interview. The interview now is for you to convince them that 1, what's on your resume is in fact true, and 2, they're looking for a fit for the organization. And I want to take time here to mention something to you because I know social media is prevalent. We love Instagram, we love Facebook, and we love Twitter. I caution you that whatever you put in social media is forever. It's not erased. And I want to say that because I want you to be aware that a lot of companies now are looking at your social media presence to identify who you are and more about you. And so I just want you to be mindful of the things that you're sharing in these social media platforms. If you remember, there was a story of a young lady had gotten a scholarship offer to a prominent full scholarship ride to a very good college and university. But when they looked at her social media page, they withdrew their offer. So I just say to you, just be mindful of what you're putting out in the ethos there, because you want to make sure that it truly reflects the moral and the values that you have. LinkedIn. Yes, I can tell you, what do I think of LinkedIn? LinkedIn is a great place to network. LinkedIn is not Facebook. I want to be clear. So if you decide to get an account on LinkedIn, make sure that you keep it on the professional level, because there are companies that look and will offer you jobs based on what they see in your LinkedIn profile. It happens to me often. I get messages often looking for, seeing if I'm interested in certain positions. And I will tell you also with LinkedIn, because you are military, you will get that first year subscription, full subscription. After that, it's $60 a year, but you will get that first year premium because of your military service. So please take advantage of that as well. So again, that's my 4th tip. Prepare for the interview. So tip number 5. Most of us, if you've had a long career like myself, or you've had a short career, but it doesn't matter. You've had some failures, and that is okay. I often say success is overrated. What do I mean by that? Because failure is where you learn. I'll tell you, I remember this because this was a failure, and I won't say the name, but early on in my Air Force career, I had a supervisor who I thought was not fair to me. And we had an appraisal system that was numbered 1 through 5. And I thought that, hey, I'm knocking it out the park. I'm doing great. I'm smart. I'm doing all this community service. And I thought that I deserved a 5. And he gave me a 3. and I didn't understand why. And as a result, I tried to fight it because I thought, wait a minute, I'm above my peers. But he maintained that I should have a 3 on that evaluation. But you know what I did? I said, never again will that happen to me. So the next supervisor I had, my first question was, I think that I perform at a 5. What will it take to earn a 5 from you? And I held him accountable to the words that he gave me, but I held myself accountable to achieve that. So while that 3 stayed in my record, it was not detrimental to my career. I still ended up as an enlisted getting a Air Force a commission. But I will tell you, if I had taken that failure and really sulked about it, I may not have been where I am today. So you may have had failures, learn, but don't repeat. And so that is my 5th tip. Because if you've lived in a life of rainbows and unicorns, then good for you. But I think most of us will probably have a story or two of how something that we planned did not go right, and we had to learn from that. So those are the 6 tips, the 5 tips that I have so far, and I'm going to pause so that Dr. Barnes could check the Q&A.
Great, thank you, Ms. Benwine. I have another question coming in from Mr. Mills that wants to know, what was your biggest setback moving forward with getting hired as a civilian?
My biggest setback. Well, I cannot say that I had a setback. I've been very fortunate. My first civilian job that I applied for, I was hired. When I became a senior executive, my first application, I was hired. And I will tell you, and I'm going to talk about that in a couple of my next tips, it was because of preparation. It was because those things that I told you to do in the beginning about knowing my worth and investing in myself, I actually did those things. I'm saying these to you because I did them, and that is why I have the success that I have today. So I can again impart to you that if you want to get a civilian job with USA Jobs, you have to understand the civilian system. So find someone that is a current civilian and ask them to mentor you into entering the civilian workforce, the civil service workforce. So what's my next tip? Tip number 6. So again, I've talked to you about know what you want to do, know your worth, invest in yourself, prepare for the interview, and don't be afraid to fail. Number 6, my number 6 tip is mentorship. I cannot say it enough. Mentorship. And mentorship is a team sport. What do I mean by that? First of all of us, the leadership on this call, the members that are in NNOA, I guarantee you they could point to you a mentor they have had in their career that helped them. I too can say the same thing. But I want to talk to you a little bit about selecting your mentorship team. That's what I mean by it's a team sport. I've never had just one mentor. I've always had a team of mentors. And this doesn't sound, arrogant, but I selected the mentors to be on my team. And why do I do that? Because first of all, mentorship is seasonal, meaning there was a time when I needed a mentor for a certain time in my career. When I just entered the civil service as a GS-12, I needed someone that was at a higher grade that could help me reach that higher grade. I also needed some definitely peer mentorship as well. I also needed to have mentors that were not in my same career field. Then I needed mentors that also helped me and I always have a spiritual mentor to make sure that I stayed rooted and grounded. And so on my team, I've always had 4 to 5 mentors that were there for different reasons and moved them out at different times. And now, what is your mentor there to do? Just that. Your mentor there is a sounding board. I can go to my mentor and say, I have this situation. How should I handle it? But a mentor is not a coach. So think about sports. What does a coach do on the sports team? If you played basketball, the coach knows your strengths. He gives you foundations, your drills the coach tells you to do. The coach is going to put you in when you need it, pull you out when you don't. That's a coach. So when you're looking for a career coach is going to help you set career goals. They're going to hold you accountable for those career goals, and they're going to make sure that if you have any weaknesses, they're going to be honest and transparent and tell you about them, and they're going to help them. The career coach is trained to be a coach. They are not trained to be a mentor. Your mentor you go to when you have situations that you need to address, or maybe you want to make a certain career move and you want to ask them the best way to handle it. So treat coaching and mentoring differently because they are in fact different. And also I will tell you about my team of mentors. I have men, I have women, they are of different race, they are different nationalities, all of that, cultural differences. I do not surround myself with just one type of person because diversity of thought is very important. And so I want to make sure that I have those diverse points of views. And I love what someone just put in the chat, that your mentor will also be your advocate. Absolutely. That's not the job of the coach. That's the job of a mentor. As a senior executive today, I mentor those that desire to be senior executives. And if I have a mentee that I know is ready for a certain position or a certain opportunity, and I see one available, I would recommend that mentee to maybe, someone that's looking to fill a position. So advocacy is important. So mentorship is seasonal. Make sure that your mentorship team is diverse so that you can have a diversity of thought. Make sure that they're diverse in the careers. If you're in IT, you don't need all of your mentors to be IT. But don't think your mentor has always be someone above you as well, because peer mentorship is important. But never, never should your mentor be your supervisor. Never. And this is the only time you'll ever hear me say a strong negative, because that is a conflict of interest. So my next tip, and number 7, and I want to make sure that, again, I chose the number 7 because it is about completeness and it is about perfection. And so I'm hoping that the tips that I'm sharing with you and the resources that I'm going to share with you are going to be helpful to you as you make the transition, because they've helped me in my transition for sure. When you are making that transition, it is not just about the money. It is about breadth of experience. What do I mean? When I was a GS-12 and I started with the Department of the Marine Corps, I said Department of Marine Corps, go ahead, Marine Corps. When I started with the Department of the Navy, working for the Marine Corps, someone offered me a job, and it was a lateral move. I was already a GS-12, but they were offering me a GS-12, but it was a supervisory GS-12. And I took that job. Why did I do that? Because it wasn't more money. It was a lateral move, but it gave me an additional breadth of experience and opportunity as supervision. Several times in my career, I've made those types of decisions, that I've taken on an opportunity that gave me more of a breadth of experience. So here's another tool that I like to share with you that I've used since then. Since 2006, I have used this tool. It's called a skills mapping tool. Something simple I created, nothing you need to buy. You can go home and make it today. I encourage you to use Excel spreadsheet. And I want you first, after you've done step 1, you know the job that you want. And I want to tell you, we had one of our speakers here was Stephanie Easter, and she, as an executive, she spoke also in the fireside chat. She mentored me. And I went to her office because I was interested in being a chief information security officer. And she gave me the best 30-minute session that I can tell you I've ever had. Why? Because she asked me several questions. She said, what is it about that job that you want to do that job? And do you know people that are doing that job? And I said, yes. And she said, what skills do they have? That is how you create your skills mapping. If I wanted to be a CISO, there were about 11 skills you need to have to do that. A CISO being a cybersecurity subject matter expert. And so I put those skills, those 11 skills, down the column A. And across in the row, I put all the jobs that I've had, because remember, you only go back 10 years max on your resume. Anything beyond 10 years is considered to be out of date. And so wherever I did a skill at a job, I put an X at that intersection. Now I had a pictorial view in front of me of any gaps in my skills that I needed in order to achieve that goal of being a CISO when the time was right. And so I hope you're following me here. Create the job that you want, identify the skills required to do that job, make a list of those skills, and then look across in your previous experience, and where that intersects, put an X. And what you're gonna see is there is times when I had, in maybe my first job, I had done project management, but I hadn't done it again. So on my 5th job, I went and took a new job that gave me project management experience. So every time I made a move for a job, it was to either update a skill or acquire a new skill. It was never about the money. Now, am I saying to you, I've never taken a job for a promotion? Of course, I'm not saying that, because I would not be where I am today. But I am saying to you that I continually monitored my skills to understand that I made sure they were up to date. Someone asked me the question about how do you make sure you're marketable? Because you understand your work. You understand the skills that you have, and you've created in this 10-year time frame those skills. And even though I worked for the Marine Corps as a civilian from 2006 to 2018, I made sure that I did different jobs within the Marine Corps. Same company, never changed. My entire civilian career at that time was with the Marine Corps. Then I took my first executive job with Department of Agriculture. So those are the 7 tips that I offer to you today. Again, know what you want to do, so use the tools that you have available to you. Know your worth. It's all about a total compensation, not just about that $1 amount. Understand the compensation package. Invest in yourself. If you need to take a class, don't be afraid to spend money on yourself. But there's also a lot of free courses as well that are available to you. Coursera is one. You could take any of these. We call them massively online courses, MOOCs. Please, massively open online courses, MOOC, MOOCs. If you Google that, you will find Udemy, Coursera, free courses. Invest in yourself. And sometimes invest in yourself isn't about spending money. It's about investing your time. Take the time to give up, watching Saturday football or hanging out on Saturday to take a course that may take 8 hours. That's an investment in yourself. Don't forget to prepare for the interview. I provided a book, and I'll make sure that all these resources I share with Dr. Barnes and the NNOA team. It's okay to fail. Just maximize. If there's something in your career that may have been a failure, be open and honest about it, but talk about how you overcame it and what's different about you now. Because the interviewer is going to ask you, tell me a time that you failed. And if you say never, they're going to think you're being totally dishonest, because we all have failures. Mentorship is a team sport. Remember, diverse mentorship teams so that you can have diversity of thought. It's not about the money, it's about the breadth of experience. And I'm going to give you one bonus, and that is learn daily, professionally and personally. I watch a webinar every day. I either watch a webinar, read a chapter in a book every day that's related to my job or for personal growth. So please make sure that you are deliberate about yourself and your career. I will tell you just in my closing remarks, well, before I close, I'm going to ask, do you have any questions in the chat or any comments for me, Dr. Barnes?
There are no other questions, Ms. Goodwine, in the chat or the comment box, and I'm sure I'm also taking copious notes myself, but I have nothing else to add. I don't see anything standing out with you with your closing remarks right now.
Okay. So first, again, thank you so very much for this opportunity. I hope that the words that I shared with you are helpful. I hope that you can hear my heart and my sincerity when I say to you, it is not easy. You may be afraid because sometimes all you know is the military, because you've been in the military 4 years, 6 years, 20 years, and it's going to seem scary. That's why these type of organizations are very helpful. But I will also encourage you that because you have served in the military, you are a unique individual. Only 1% of the population serve in the military. I'll let you ponder that. So you are a unicorn and you are special. And the skills that you have, the discipline that you have adhered to and complied with as a military member, we are certified drug-free testing. Most of us have security clearances. We've been trusted with national requirements. We have managed and owned and used multi-million, billion-dollar equipment. Average civilian cannot say that. So do not sell yourself short as you make the transition. So you're going to have to get comfortable in telling your story. It's not bragging. It's not arrogance. It's tell your story and be your true, authentic self. So I wish you all the luck as you make the transition. And I hope that the resources that we provide will be helpful to you. So again, thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwine. And at this time, Admiral Harris will offer his closing remarks. Thank you, sir.
So I got to tell you, that was incredible. I hope everybody is taking away how incredibly valuable the wisdom, the true wisdom that was shared today is to all of us and to our families and to the people that are working with us or serving with us in the government and military, and like 7 absolutely true statements. I had one question to ask at the end. When you talked about organizations like ours, in a way, Air Force has got AFCOMA, ROCKS in the Army, NDIA, Navy League, you know, it goes on and on and on. There's more than anybody can actually do. But if you do the things that Ms. Goodwine has suggested, you can probably figure out which ones are the most important in order to further your pursuits. So, and the learn daily, lifelong learning. I learn something every day, and I've been retired for almost 6 years at the same company, but I learn something every single day. And I think it's absolute, but I still watch my football on Saturdays. So I don't go crazy on me, lady. But very, very good, incredible things. I wrote down my 7 items, and I thank you on behalf of all of us in a way, and appreciate not only your service to our country, but your continuing mentoring and coaching of us as we go forward. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, it was indeed an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Carl, over to you or to Francis or whoever's got
The co-host,
control.
Brother Ernie or Brother Mike, over to the co-host. Thank you.
Yes,
listen,
thank you, everybody.
listen,
Thank you, everyone.
I just wanted to chime in here. First, Ms. Goodwine, I tell you, we really appreciate you taking the time. We can only imagine just how much and how busy it is to start a new job and a new career path there in your present position, and how difficult it is to break away for these opportunities. We want to thank you from that perspective. This is Captain Tony Barnes. I also want to say to the audience that is still there, hey, this is one in a continuing series, so stay tuned for the next fireside chat speaker. I don't know who's next in the hopper, but we've got quite a lineup coming up. I do know that we're approaching former a retired Admiral Annie Wells to be one of our speakers. Those of you that know her, she's going to be coming up here in the future. I know that we are talking with Vernice Armour, who is another decorated service member who's now retired and in the civilian sector. So we are looking for great speakers like Ms. Goodwine, and we have knocked it out of the park once again. And so we hope that you will not only tune into the next speaker, but we also post these videos on the previous speakers on the Transition Assistance Team website. Please utilize the resources there. As you well know, Ms. Goodwine is going to provide us with additional tips that we will post there. And that's a great one-stop shopping location. And final commercial is, please look for our sessions in August at the NNOA National Conference that's virtual. We have an event each day, and you don't want to miss any of those opportunities to be exposed to that information as well. Finally, once again, thank you and great use of the time. Just knocked it out of the park. Appreciate you.
Thank you.